Djibouti is a coastal country living on, its economy is relying a lot on maritime business, maritime trade. We have very good infrastructure, port infrastructure, and we have been noticing that the level of transshipment has decreased, substantially, and even dropped by half in a few weeks' time. We also have noticed some shortages of products coming from Europe in our markets. We also see other port activities being affected seriously. So the security and safety of maritime navigation is paramount for Djibouti. We need this escalation or tension be resolved in a way that will certainly bring back on its feet, this whole maritime business. And I know there is a nexus between the attacks carried out by the Houthis against vessels and ships and what's going on in Gaza. I think both problems should be resolved very quickly. We need what's going on in Gaza, the ceasefire be immediately announced and the war stopped there. And we also need the Houthis not to disrupt, the maritime navigation and maritime trade, because I think the whole world will be affected anyway. Djibouti is certainly, for the time being, one of the collateral damages of that tension and this escalation in the Red Sea and the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb.
Your country is not part of the international coalition that is launched attacks against Houthis. But do you think that eventually your country will be dragged into this conflict directly or indirectly?
I think Djibouti has always been a country that gives priority to dialogue. Whenever a crisis trigger in the region, Djibouti's policy has always been based on finding the ways and means to resolve problems through dialogue. Of course, we feel right now the consequences of even what's happening in Ukraine, the inflation, the global inflation, then what is happening in Gaza, and now the disruption of the maritime trade in the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. We feel it. We really feel it, the consequences. But at the same time, when we hosted all those naval forces and military forces in Djibouti, our main target and objective was to contribute to global peace and the safety of navigation in the Red Sea and the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. So since our principal position is really to create the conditions for that peaceful coexistence, peaceful situation, our conditions, we are not really, our intention is not to be dragged into this war. And we have always made our position very clear, telling all our partners that Djibouti is not hosting foreign forces that will have offensive posture, that will, take Djibouti land or territory as a launching soil for their military operations. I think this is not the objectives. What we need to stress and underline is the fact that Djibouti is a small, peaceful country working for global peace and trying to create the conducive environment for security, safety of the navigation in the region. And we're certainly not in favor of the escalation. We will keep away from that escalation, and we will need, all the stakeholders in the region to also try to find, the ways and means for de-escalation. This is our principal position, and we will be working on that basis in the near future.
Well, coming back to the regional issues, as chair of IGAD, there's a lot of tensions already going on in this volatile region between Somalia and Ethiopia, and of course Sudan pulling out of IGAD. Do you think IGAD is up to task to resolve these issues?
Since Djibouti assumed the chairmanship of IGAD in June last year, we have been always trying to create the conducive environment for a peaceful resolution of conflicts. Djibouti called for 2 summits within 3 months, 2 IGAD summits, try to create the conditions for dialogue in the Sudan between the stakeholders, and also now urging and calling Somalia and Ethiopia to find a way to dialogue and not to create, new tension between themselves, and urge them to really, stay away from any action that could create the condition for escalation. So now we're also preparing a new summit in the margin of the African Union summit that will take place in Addis Ababa mid-February. So our position as chair of IGAD is used mainly to reach those goals. We have invited the stakeholders in Sudan to come to Djibouti, at least to meet in a face-to-face, encounter, and find a way of announcing the cessation of hostilities. We are also, if we don't manage to bring them to Djibouti, we will seize every opportunity to really create that condition for the encounter. This is the guidance and the results of the communique that has been adopted in Entebbe, on the 18th of January. We are working on that. We are trying to really push, the stakeholders in the Sudan towards that goal.
What efforts are you taking to prevent escalations in these tensions in the already volatile region?
We did not just stand, without any action. President Gele sent a special envoy to Port Sudan to try to convince, the leadership there to reconsider their decision to suspend their membership. And we are working on that too. But I think Sudan is a founding member of IGAD. Sudan is a very pivotal, a very important country in the region. So we need Sudan to remain in IGAD, and at least the chair, Djibouti, will continue to engage Sudan to reconsider its decision, and IGAD is trying to help anyway. We don't have any other agenda. We are trying to bring peace to Sudan.
Well, Ethiopia and the self-declared state of Somaliland signed a controversial port and naval-based deal, which has angered Somalia. What do you make of this?
The Djibouti's position from the very beginning has been very clear, which stand on the principle of the sovereignty of countries and the territorial integrity of member countries. And we have been very clear about that. This sovereignty should be respected by each and everyone. Then I think IGAD is trying to handle this issue. We had one summit in Kampala, or Entebbe, more precisely. And we will be having also another summit in Addis Ababa, trying to really decrease the tension, go towards, the objective of de-escalation, and find a way of creating between Somalia and Ethiopia, the harmonious relationship that used to exist. So this is our role, but I think on the principles, we do not bargain. These are principles that is contained in the IGAD Treaty, in the Constitutive Act of the African Union, and also in the UN Charter. So this is our position, principal position.
Your country is helping Somalia in its efforts for peace and security. We know YouTube's a part of ATMIS. Tell us about these efforts.
We in Djibouti have a very special relationship with this neighboring country. And from the very beginning, when the state collapsed in Somalia, Djibouti was the first country to organize a reconciliation conference in July 1991. And then we did not stop. For so many years, Djibouti has been really very active in trying to bring Somalia back on its feet. And everybody remembers the ARTA conference, and even the system on which now the state institutions in Somalia works is the system that is the outcome of the ARTA conference. So we will continue to help Somalia, I think, for so many reasons, culturally speaking, historic reasons, the geographical reasons, that's, I think, something that the Somalis themselves feel, that Djibouti is really the closest friend and the closest partner that they can rely on.